I always believe that with time comes change and progression. And I believe that even though there have been significant steps toward that in the queer community, there's still a long way to go. After looking throughout the exhibit, I was inspired to work on my own scrapbook. It just kind of clicked with me where it's just, get it done, pretty much. Just do it, because there's so much that's going to happen later on in the future where I can just add on instead of having just a heap of newspapers. In particular with the scrapbook, how I see it is that the importance of having a scrapbook for me is to be able to record all the history that I value. I remember looking at some of the items in the exhibit. I mean, just learning of the queer history. Again, I was never familiar with it. I pretty much had to make my own queer history from what I've seen in magazines and articles. And as far as I know, this is all I know until I finally really break away and start talking to people about what other issues are queers facing in today's society. And even more so, I'm looking at what are Asian American queers facing in our society as well, because I feel like I have two separate lives, and I'm slowly being able to merge it together. My parents are refugees that came from Vietnam, and my mom used to tell me that she was picked on in school. And for me, how I see it is that type of discrimination that she faced is what queers, gays, lesbians, and bis, they face today. My favorite thing from the exhibit was this scrapbook by William Billings. Looking at Billings' scrapbook and comparing that with mine, I feel that I'm starting off where he left. They displayed one part where it showed a letter of his coming out to his parents. He was able to plan out what he wanted to say to his parents, whereas in my coming out experience, let's just say my parents caught me in the act, and I was in a position where I was very defensive of who I was, and I really didn't know how to explain myself to them because I was caught off guard. You could just see the disappointment in my parents' eyes. It does bring me comfort that people kind of plan out how they're going to come out. For me particularly, it's just I made my list of who I should come out to amongst my friends and my family, my extended family. And I mean, I'm still going through that list, and it's always going to continue to build. Seeing his and Billings' letter, I don't know where his parents were on his list, but it's interesting, the different ways that we actually come out. We all have our own coming out stories. Having an exhibit out at the library is important because it is a collection, it is an archive of queer history. And how I see it is that seeing items like the boots worn by Dr. Mary Walker, seeing the scrapbook put together by William Billings, and even seeing the agenda book that belonged to Harvey Milk, it does hit on a personal level where I can actually connect, where I have my own pair of shoes, I have my own little agenda book, and I have a scrapbook that I'm still putting together. And so pretty much if we don't know what our roots are, then it doesn't really help us figure out how we identify, because that is history. And if without history, we wouldn't really have anything to base our struggles, our accomplishments on. You can look at a history book and you see what that particular person who's writing that history book, with how they see history and what they feel is important to be kept in history books. But then you have the other people who believe that this is important as well, but that are not actually, in history books. And so having scrapbooks, I think, is a history book all in itself. Imagine sitting somewhere else, hidden away in a secluded place where no one can find you. Imagine yourself standing up on your bare feet, taking little steps toward the light in the distance. Imagine hearing someone calling out your name, frantically waiting for you, but you are unable to respond. Imagine yourself crying with your head tucked under your arms, huddled in a corner, a cold, semi-dark corner, with your arms resting on your knees, as you sit and sob every pain and happiness out of your eyes. Imagine the world without you, a better place, your name unheard of before. Imagine the world with you, a far worse place, your identity unlike any other. Imagine questioning yourself every day about everything. Now imagine in reality people feel this way. No apparent reason. They just do. Now you're in my shoes.
Living in the earth deposits of our history. Today, a backhoe divulged out of a crumbling flank of earth one bottle, amber, perfect, 100-year-old cure for fever or melancholy, a tonic for living on this earth in the winters of this climate.
Don't suppose it will be as it is remembered in time past. Time present is a different, unpredicted picture. Time future happens only in the mind. Worlds are always ending and beginning. Tales are getting learned and learning. Birds are always taking off and landing. The sky is ever being turned around and turning. The tree is ever being stood upon and standing, and the flame is getting burned and burning. Grandmother is returning. Don't expect the past. Expect whatever happens. Men moving more than ever. Women are just wakening. Grandmother is returning. That's all I know.